We are trying to be good people being charitable, but actually it is not charity. It is in our interests. It is in the interests of every single citizen of Europe and the European nations to help people in our neighborhood and in the different parts of the world to be better off, to be less poor, to be less ill, to have less disease, because we live in an interdependent world. So our purpose should be not to give a hand out, but to give a hand up. Not to give fish, but to give the fish nets, so they can catch the fish. And that should be the rationale of our development policy.
Tu mi chiedi di far vedere il progetto di cooperazione come un partenariato tra uguali, però molto spesso le persone, il pubblico qui, vuole invece sentirsi non l'uguale, ma vuole sentirsi quello che dà o quello che è superiore.
You see, I think we live in a global world, so I wouldn't really distinguish too much foreign aid from aid within the country. Ultimately, if there is a crisis situation somewhere, you need aid from whatever source you can get, whether you get it from abroad or you get it from within the country. If people are starving, if there is an earthquake, you need assistance from anywhere that you can get. So I wouldn't put such a demarcation on foreign aid and national aid.
There is no point in putting together a very robust act or legislation to bring about change if you can't implement that act. Equally, if you don't build institutions and the capacity of institutions to implement and have knowledge about the law of their own country and state, equally you are going to have blockages and breaks. And at the same time, if you don't educate a populace as to what their rights are, again, they don't know that the law exists. So you've got to do all things simultaneously. You can't actually put into place new legislation and expect change to happen. You need to be able to educate lawmakers and breakers, in fact, and also populations. So I'm trying to put this into an example. If you look at the domestic violence bill against women, for example, there's no point in educating a population as to what their rights are if those rights aren't supported and recognised by local police stations, by local magistrates. If they don't know how to implement the law, you've almost achieved nothing. In fact, you've given knowledge out, but you've raised expectations without any realisation of change, and that will create frustration. So the challenge is actually to work on both sides of the chain, if you look at it like a value chain. So you've got to look at national and state policies, but in order for them to be effective, you've got to actually educate the public about what their rights and access to rights is. And if you don't do one without the other, it's pretty pointless, to be honest.
Poop. Doo-doo. Number 2, caca. Crap. Shit. There's a ton of it, and dozens of words to describe it. But for 2.6 billion people around the globe, there's no place to actually do it. Imagine that. No reliable sanitary toilet. What would you do? Well, what you have to do, use anything you can find, which means in no time, you've got a big pile of problems, like diseases. Deadly diseases that are filling half the hospital beds in developing countries. A serious, well, crappy scenario that by working in partnership, we can change. How?